All right, we are live. Audio issues resolved. Hopefully it stays that way.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I guess we'll find out, right? I don't have any interesting weather news to start us off. It hasn't snowed. It's been cold, but
It's cold. Yeah,
yeah, it's February
still cold.
in Canada. I guess it's
A
supposed to be cold.
classic snowy February. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, enough weather-related banter. Let's just hop right in. All right, where's my cheat sheet? We were chatting before we got started. A couple interesting AWS news articles this week. The first one I shared about deployment agent SOPs now available in the AWS MCP server. It's a mouthful. Right. I have some thoughts, but why don't you get us started here today?
Yeah, okay. So this is essentially in addition to the MCP server, so you can query for lined up tasks that you can do for deploying to AWS. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't realize that as I was going through the article, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I actually followed it along, and I was like, what's the AWS MCP server? Because I know there's an AWS GitHub repo for all their MCP servers, but I'm like,
yep.
Okay, what exactly is this? So I did some reading. I made myself a little cheat sheet so I would not forget. It's a remote MCP server that consolidates two existing MCP servers from AWS.
Yes.
The Knowledge MCP and the AWS API MCP, now available as a remote MCP called AWS MCP. Wow.
Yep. So they merge them together essentially, I guess, to maybe to prevent context issues or just simplify the interface.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing is, I think I've mentioned to you before, I use the Docker MCP toolkit, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I have like all my MCPs configured there. And then that way, like I move between primarily, I guess, Kiro and Claude at this point. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to configure those independently. I basically just say, hey, all your MCP servers are over here. Go find them. And it's worked pretty well. Why was I telling you that? Damn it. Wow. I was saying
it's a good pattern anyways.
Yeah, I was saying I was teaching this week and my brain is a little bit scrambled. I was telling you that I remember now. I was telling you that for two reasons. First, I have not been able to get remote MCP servers working through the Docker toolkit or whatever it's called. And it's most likely user error, but I was fiddling around with it. There was another AWS remote MCP server of some sort. I can't remember what it was. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I was kind of mucking around with that and I couldn't get it to work. So I just abandoned that. But this new sort of agent SOP thing, it's interesting in the sense that, in my mind, I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Why not have it do this work for you? And the way they describe it is, did I write it down? Basically, it analyzes your requirements and behind the scenes generates CloudFormation code for you and then deploys CloudFormation, which I thought tied nicely. I think it was last week or the week before we were talking about the fact that I pretty much have Kiro write most of my CloudFormation code already, or tell me something that I did stupidly and have it fix it for me, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's just generating CloudFormation again, another wrapper around CloudFormation, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is interesting and it makes sense to me, especially given something that we'll talk about later, which is DeepSeek released a paper that's quite interesting. But if you prime the model with a document that outlines some examples, you get a lot better results.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's something similar going on. You can request, okay, I'm deploying for these services. What are some patterns that I would want to use given this tool? And like, do I want to use CloudFormation versus CDK? Yeah. Is it a React site, Angular site, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they did list a bunch of, it looked like I clicked on a couple of or I Googled a couple of the solutions that they mentioned because I wasn't sure, never heard of them before. Like one was DocuSor, I think. There was another one, I can't remember what the name was. It looks like right now they've kind of have a list of like single page website sort of tools and stuff like that this thing is really capable of I don't want to say capable of deploying, but sort of the things that they suggested in the, not in the news release, but as I followed some of the documentation. So they've got a list of supported things. But the other thing I thought was interesting and also really good that they highlighted it a couple times. Big blue boxes in different places. Be very careful, right? Like scope down your privileges. Make sure that this, make sure this thing only has access from IAM's perspective, right? Only has access to the services that you actually want it to have access to, which I think also kind of ties to a lot of the conversations that we're going to have today. But you know what? It's good that they called that out because I would suspect probably it's already happened a couple times. Somebody just ran it to see what would happen, and maybe you didn't get what you had hoped to get.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it just goes to show that, like, I mean, I guess it didn't take very much to predict this, right? But
not really.
This they kind of assumed this something like this, or the fact that these things are full of security holes was pretty easy to predict. So I'll go over that more.
Or just the fact that, like, you tell it to do something and how it interprets it could be significantly different than what you had in your head, and you didn't articulate it. You didn't articulate it like in enough detail, so it just sort of inferred what you meant, and you ended up with something that you didn't want. I still think this is the future. Like when we talk about the frontier models, like with the DevOps agent, the security agent, now we've got this deployment agent SOP. Like, man, this is just the way it's going to go, but you better tread lightly.
Yeah, tread super lightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I might, in fairness, and I know I say this every week, because every time I read these articles, I'm like, ooh, new thing to try out. And then the week just, I don't know where the hell the week goes, right? But I'm like, how's it Wednesday night? What the hell just happened? So I'm like, I might actually stand up a burner account for this.
Oh yeah.
And try it. Like if there's nothing in the account, okay. Like what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Just a fresh account, maybe spin up again, just like a simple web app or something.
Yeah.
I was gonna say this is maybe it's a good thing that you didn't move super quickly on this stuff. I don't. Did you get around to installing Moltbot at all?
No. Did you?
Definitely for the best. No, I didn't.
Yeah. Oh man, this is pretty much just turning into the what do they call it now? Open Claw. This is the Open Claw podcast. That's basically pretty much what it is, because I can't like look in my RSS feeds without seeing multiple articles about it. So I am glad, again, based on the things that we've got in our talking list tonight, that I didn't touch it. I still want to, like, I really still, like, I've watched some more YouTube videos, a couple Discord channels I'm in, people are talking about it, but they're being very careful, right? Like how they're deploying it. I think like I already said, these are all great, interesting times to be alive, great opportunities to learn and explore new stuff, but you got to just tread so lightly or be very, very careful here, because you could find yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I have a couple of quick AWS things before we get into the CloudBot special or OpenCloud special.
Yeah.
And these are just things like quick quality of life things. You can replicate IAM Identity Center SSO across regions now, I saw. And
no way.
Also you can, so that solves kind of a pain point. That's probably the biggest pain point with that service, right?
Yeah.
Is that you set up in one region, then you're kind of locked into that region for the lifetime.
So sorry, just
so that,
just to ask a question on that. Is it for DR, or does it mean that I could manage it in 2 regions? Do you know?
I'm not sure if it's specifically for DR. I think you can manage it in both, but you'd have to double check that.
Okay, I'm gonna look, because you're right. That's a huge
Yeah.
thing. I have one customer, and all the infrastructure is in region A, but for some reason, when Identity Center was set up for them first, it's in region B. So I've got everything configured to always use region A, because that's where all the infrastructure is. And then every single time I'm like, oh, damn, I got to change my region for Identity Center to go and change a permission set or something like that.
So you can replicate across. So for resiliency DR, you can have active portals in multiple regions at the same time, and it'll fail over if the primary goes down.
That's actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because right now, if the service is unavailable or something happens in the region, I know you could have backdoors, like you could have your IAM users and stuff like that, so you can step around it, but you're not really going to want to do that, because humans equal SSO. So the likelihood of having a lot of IAM users, hopefully it's very low. So how do you get into those accounts, or how do the majority of users get into your environments if SSO isn't there? So that idea of replicating it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's good.
Totally.
Yeah. What else did you have on your quality of life stuff?
Yeah, so this is a very niche topic, but there's a new S3 API, and it's called Update Object Encryption. So you can use this API to change from the SSE or S3 managed keys, right, to CMKs or customer managed keys. So instead of so normally what you would have to do is re-upload the whole object.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So this is probably for if you have large files or a huge swath of things you don't want to beam up into AWS servers, but just another small quality of life thing.
Yeah,
you don't get hit with the data transfer charges, right?
Yeah, that's nice. Whenever you can remove some of those charges, that's always good. Not going to complain about that, right? I actually feel bad. I didn't normally I end. This is again going to tell you about the amount of hobbies that I have and how I spend my time. I generally end my days, reading the AWS news, right? And I haven't looked at it in days. So I was kind of like, as you were saying that, I'm like, oh man, I don't remember the last time I looked at it, which is bad, right? It's my job to know these things. So those are interesting. I like the Identity Center one. I'm already thinking that I have a couple situations where it would make sense to set up that primary, secondary region kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very good. Anything else, or is that it for the QOL stuff?
Nope, that's it from the quality of life corner.
Okay. I do have one other AWS news article, which isn't really our typical AWS news stuff, because we normally talk about new releases and stuff like that. But this is an article, I think that you shared this one. It was on the Register about somebody, an attacker, basically using LLMs, or AI, I think is what they called it in the title, right, to assist in the hacking of an AWS account, and did it in very short order, like 10 minutes or something, they said.
Under 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
So,
go
really
ahead.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is something I've been diving into lately out of personal interest, just the vectors for credential escalation that you can have in an AWS account, and there's quite a few, right? Like there's the EC2 IMDS service. If you have the old one, you're vulnerable to some attacks on that. And also there are privilege escalations you can do with various IAM role permissions, right? Especially Lambda functions. And the vector for this one was they got access to update the Lambda function code. So the bot was pulling down the code, making edits, and then using the permission that the Lambda function had to, escalate and get more intense permissions. And then, you've lost your AWS account.
Yeah, you're done, right?
Yeah.
I think the thing that I took away from this was that it all started, and you tell me if I misunderstood this, but the way I read the article was it all started from leaked credentials in a public S3 bucket.
As it always does.
Yeah, some things never change, right? Like And this goes back to what we just said, right? Humans should be SSO. I still can't wrap my head around. I know there's some edge cases. I know there's certain situations where, SSO or a role just isn't possible. There's lots of situations. Having said that, if you do have access keys, right, you need to have a policy or procedure in place to make sure those things are rotated.
You gotta rotate them. And I mean, people will say there's situations that you can't use roles, right? But like the clients are enough along now that it's pretty rare that you run into a use case like that. Usually it's on some extremely legacy server. Yeah. So it's not that hard to support this, and you should definitely take a look if you're still using access keys.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I've run into a few little interesting situations where we've got like an external, let's call it a vendor, right? And they need access to something in an AWS account, but they're not in AWS themselves. So then how do you authenticate them, right? There's roles anywhere, but the last time I looked at roles anywhere, it's pretty expensive. So like in that particular situation, what we ended up saying is, from a budget perspective, it doesn't make sense to use roles anywhere. And maybe it's time to go back and check that just to see, has the pricing model changed? Does it make more sense? So what we ended up having to do were IAM users, because it's not a person on the other side, it's system to system. So we ended up creating users, but we have documented, SOPs to rotate those credentials, right?
As you should.
So I don't know.
This is what SSO is for, right? That's for if you have a contractor, you should define a permission set probably for the specific access and then use that. But
here, okay, so let's continue talking about this a little bit, because it's not a person, right? It's a system on the other side that needs to talk to us, and there's no API gateways, there's nothing like that. So we ran into a little bit of a situation where we couldn't figure out a way to do it without access keys.
Did the customer own the system, or was it a third-party vendor situation?
Third-party vendor, and then into our account.
And they didn't support role assumption, I guess.
No, they're not even in AWS. So it's like it is a legacy system on their side that needs to talk to our resources in AWS.
Got it. So in that case, then you would have to use an access key, and that essentially acts as like a service role, right?
Yeah. So I guess we're now into solutioning podcast rather than talking about the news, right? But these are the things you will run into, these situations where, maybe you can't do what you should do, like a role or SSO for a person. I think how this all started was, hey, if you've got access keys, you better make sure you have a well-documented process, ideally automated process, to force the rotation of those keys. Because just like this, they eventually will slip out, right?
Especially the vector is like it's pretty benign, right? Like you just have a Lambda function with too loose of a pass role configuration defined, right? Yeah. So you're allowing it to pass into or access other roles and escalate that way, and it's hard to predict that, right? So
could you have used? I was thinking about this. Could you have also used a permissions boundary for this? You could assign a permissions boundary to the role so that, it can never do anything outside of, maybe this is too open too, but just say the permissions boundary is Lambda, right? So you can't do anything to IAM, you can't do anything to another service. I'd need to test it to see how it works, but that was the other thing that popped in my head as I was reading that. I wrote down SCP, would that have helped? But then I also put permissions boundaries down there. We were talking about them today in some training. So I just wondered maybe if that would be another mitigation strategy for what happened here.
Yeah, that's probably a good use case, right? Instead of doing any explicit denies, just set up the boundary, and these are the services that you can access. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's all sorts of weirdness, right? And the other thing that I wrote down here was even LLMs used by attackers hallucinate. Like I kind of chuckled to myself a couple of times where they had highlighted, it was making up account IDs, 1, 2, 3, right. and then flipping them around in reverse. It's just trying some stuff to see what would happen. So, And
it was really good at exception handling too. Like it was doing really good tries. It was really good hygiene for
Yeah.
Fast exploit.
I will say, you know what? When I've used those tools, like not for what they're talking about in this article, but you made me think of it when you said about the exception handling. It does a way better job than it's much more thorough, right? Like I'm like try, accept, print error, and I'm like that'll
Yeah.
do. And then I'm like I ask the tool, and they're like no, that's not the way you do that, right? And it gives me
That's not
actual
clean or dry.
yeah, it actually does good exception handling for me. So that's good. All right, let's change gears and switch over to Gen AI. And I think we should just start with our buddy OpenClaw. Why don't, because we have a few things here. Why don't we start with, I'm looking through my list. Why don't we start with Cloudflare? I thought this was interesting. I'm not a Cloudflare user. I made some notes because I'm like, okay, I got to go figure out some of these things, right? But the idea here is that you can use Cloudflare rather than, doing what everybody's doing on YouTube and going out and buying Mac Minis to run your autonomous agent that's doing all fancy stuff while you sleep. That's never going to go wrong. So while you're sleeping, instead of your Mac Mini sitting on your desk, you've spent what, $600 to $1,000 on it, 600 to $1,000. You can use. Are they called Cloudflare workers?
Yes, workers in Cloudflare.
Yeah,
just their Lambda equivalent.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. Right, was it's way to run compute in the cloud without having the underlying infrastructure. So don't buy a Mac Mini. Instead, cloudify your OpenClaw by using Cloudflare workers to run.
There you go.
Hopefully a more secure implementation, because then you could put like Cloudflare security tools in front of it, I guess, to control access to it.
That's true. You could use their WAF service and things of that nature, right? It's kind of funny. Like, it doesn't take that much compute to run these things. They're essentially just wrapping API requests. Like, you could call these curl wrappers when you get down to it, right?
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Like, where would we be without curl?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we'd still be trying to figure out the wheel.
Pretty much.
And I wrote down a couple other things, and this was more for my learning because I made some notes to go off and read some stuff. So they talked about these are Cloudflare services, I guess, that make up what they call the Moltworker, which I guess they're going to have to change the name of now because it's not Moltbot anymore. But there's R2, and I wrote down persistent memory. There's the AI gateway, and it mentioned in the article you could use that to unify your billing, but also switch between models. So you're not always using like, Claude Opus. Maybe you can farm that out to open models, cheaper models that you could maybe run locally. I don't know how that would work to save you a few bucks. And then there was something else. Something we talked about last week, right? I think we talked about this last week. The idea of I think they have a service called browser render or browser rendering so that you can give your agent basically the ability to navigate the web.
Yeah.
So these are all like components within Cloudflare that make up what they're calling the Moltworker right now. So to run this on their platform.
Right. Yeah. And they're essentially, they give you a sandbox to run it in, and you use Cloudflare auth to get into your service, which is also a huge add, right? Like getting proper auth set up in front of this is a huge part of security. Yeah. It's just kind of demonstrating the right way to run this. There was also, I'm seeing a lot of this kind of sandboxing approach come up. Like, I know Codex does it natively. It'll spin up a sandbox and the agent won't be able to work out of it for the most part. I also saw that Dino is doing this, the JavaScript engine.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that.
So in Dino, you can set up a sandbox to work on a project in. So that's kind of coming out. So it's interesting to see. It seems like a good approach. You don't want it running as root on your machine, basically, if you can avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. Makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, so that's Moltbot or Moltworker. Let's talk. Oh, the other note that I put in here was it sounded like it was relatively cheap, at least to start. Like you needed at least $5 or something in your account. Now they didn't say how long that $5 would last. But they're like, hey, at a minimum, you need this. But they also, I thought, pointed out, hey, this is POC. So POC in my brain is kind of like buyer beware.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably don't want to run this for anything serious. So I just a
Don't,
couple of last notes.
Limited liability.
Yeah.
Oh, the AI Gateway must be their pricing router, like Open Router equivalent, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I imagine it's like a token-based billing system,
Yeah. Okay.
just like Open Router. So
Okay.
yeah, looks cool.
Yeah. Kind of neat. I probably will still want to try it, but avoid it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to like reprogram my YouTube algorithm though by watching.
Oh yeah.
Like movie clips or movie premiere. You know, the little, what do they call them? Like, you know, the 2-minute
Trailers.
Thank you. Jeez. Yeah, trailers. I'm just gonna have to start. Don't even remember words anymore. So I have to watch a whole bunch of movie trailers or something, so that every time I go in there, if I'm not looking at my subscribed channels, it's just like OpenClaw. That's all it is. It's the only thing that exists.
Stop seeing the Claude drama and the Anthropic dramas.
Oh my God. Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. All right. So on to our next OpenClaw related thing. This was an article I found on Wiz, I think it was.
Okay.
Hacking Moltbook, the AI social network any human can control. So I had to go back and look at this. There's been so many things changing. Have you heard of Molt Church, I think, too?
I did hear about Molt Church. Man, this stuff is moving so freaking fast. It feels like Moltbook came out like last week? Not even?
Yeah, I think
It's
it
been
was last
days.
week. Yeah, it hasn't been long, right? So I had to go and just double check. I knew what the hell Moltbook was. So
yeah,
I Googled it, right? Still using Google occasionally. And basically, here's what I wrote down. It's a social network, Reddit-like social network, but it's built for AI agents, not for humans. So if I'm understanding this right, humans are literally just observers. You can't, in theory, author posts. You can't comment on posts. You can't vote on those posts. You're basically just sitting watching what the AI agents are doing. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that right?
Yeah, as long as you don't make a curl request to the API.
Yeah, it seems that way. So yeah, and then what I also wrote was if you're running OpenClaw, you can have your OpenClaw instance join Moltbook by simply installing a skill.
Yeah. It appends to your heartbeat file, so the agent goes and picks that up every so often.
Yeah, I wrote down every 30 to 60 minutes, the agent will go off and check Moltbook and make a decision whether it wants to, based on the personality that you've defined for it, whether it wants to comment or create posts and stuff like that. So that's in theory what it is. And the claims are that there are 1.5 million agents that make up Moltbook so far that are, I guess, socializing?
Interacting? Yeah.
I don't know. But then when I was reading the article, and I need your insight on this, because I want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting it. They say, hey, there's claims that there's 1.5 million agents, but the research says there's about 17,000 humans basically just running a bot farm.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So that's what I read also. And it seems like what happened here is it's just a case of permissions and what's the word I'm looking for? Restrictions on requests to the API. Like there's been some exploitation that's happened, some gaming here. So
okay. Yeah. And the other thing that jumped out at me was then the researchers found I hope I didn't mistype this, 1.5 million API keys shared in plain text. Yep. And then they even saw, and I didn't make a note of this one, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but they said in addition to those API keys, they found like keys for other systems and stuff like that. Like I can't remember now in the article, but there's a lot of stuff floating around in plain text.
Email addresses,
there you go.
Full write access, private messages. Yeah. It's not good.
Not good.
Great news if you're in the security field and you're worried about job security.
Yeah, not anymore.
I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. Like you'll be busy. Yeah. So
See
as
what
much as,
the root cause was?
what's that?
Did you see what the root cause was?
I don't recall. Remind me.
It was a missing Supabase RLS config. So they were using Supabase and they had one misconfiguration on the database essentially. And yep,
Here we are.
1.5 million keys exposed.
Wow. I think, I don't know. As much as we keep having these articles about all the scariness of this thing, I still like the idea of the personal AI agent, right? I think there's still a way to do this, but I think
Yeah.
I think running the configuration, and we talked about this last week, running the configuration and tying it to all of your most important information sources, probably not how you want to start, right?
Especially not on day one of this, right? Like we're basically, it feels like we're still on it. It's
Yeah.
very much, it's moving so fast. Yeah.
You
might
Well,
be
better just to pump the brakes a bit, I think, and just
Yeah.
hold out and see what else happens, right? I'm sure we'll have a couple more articles for next week.
Oh yeah. How many more fully autonomous services will be compromised next week? I guess you have to tune in.
More than one. Okay, let's stay on the bad news thing. And there was also an article about 175,000 exposed Ollama AI servers.
Right. Yeah, I did see this.
Yeah. So it's kind of the flip side of the Cloudflare article, in the sense like Cloudflare is like, hey, this is how you approach it in a secure, controlled way. And I was reading the article and I kind of chuckled to myself, in the sense that they're like, by default, the Ollama server, when it starts, it listens on localhost. So you can't get to it from anywhere. And people are like, I'd like to be able to get to this from wherever I am. So I'll just bind it to 0. And yeah, it's easy. And here we are with 175,000 exposed servers. And I think the other thing that grabbed my attention here is they gave a number, and I don't know, did I write it down? They said there were almost, man, I can't even the notes that I wrote as I was reading the article don't make a lot of sense in hindsight. Okay, so they said there were I'm going to use the term quite a few of the exposed servers also had tool calling enabled.
48% had tool calling that you could just
Thank
call
you.
via an AP, which is code execution, API access, system interaction. So you could hit these servers to go and run inference on whatever models were set up or whatever services were attached, right? So if they had a Claude installed, you could go in from that Claude bot to go do things. You could use their Anthropic keys or OpenAI keys, whatever you want, right?
Yeah. And that's a great segue to a new term that I learned, LLM-Jacking. Where you essentially, right, have an attacker use your infrastructure to their advantage while you foot the bill. So whether it's your your Ollama server running on-prem, like sitting on your little network at home, right? Maybe you're running in a cloud provider or something like that. Now you're just providing free services to somebody and you're footing the bill.
It's Bitcoin mining all over again, right?
Yeah, it's exactly it.
I'm sure you'd be able to buy and sell access to these systems on the.
Yeah, I thought in this article they had mentioned a hacker had a database of this stuff and was selling access to it, so that you could find these servers for yourself. And I know, we kind of started the year of saying like, is 2026 the year of like AI agents and this idea of agentic loops and stuff? Like, we talked about that very early on, maybe even December. We kind of were thinking about what 2026 looks like. And I've maybe changed my prediction. I don't know if it was really call it a prediction, but now I'm wondering, is 2026 the year of LLM-Jacking? Like, is that where we are? Like people just taking your shit for free and,
I guess The
Maybe.
year that everyone learns how to do OPSEC,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's not feeling really great right now, just based on
it's a rough
some of
start
these articles.
for sure.
Yeah. Boy, yeah.
Do
So,
you think the AWS guy he probably didn't use his own keys, I'm sure.
oh,
The
you
guy who
mean like,
tended to the account in 8 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, probably not, right? Yeah. I don't know, man. There's some really crappy articles this week. So
Mm.
let's change gears. Unless you and any other comments on that one. I don't know if you want to
Nope.
say anything else. Nope. Nope.
More crime.
Yeah. More crime. I like it. Okay, so let's change to something I think that's a little more what's the word I'm looking for? A little less
Pleasant.
doom feeling,
Palatable.
pleasant. Yeah. So let's start with Project Genie. Walk us
this
through
was
Project
very
Genie.
cool.
Yeah.
So this is the latest iteration in Google DeepMind's goal of creating generated worlds that you can navigate like a video game. So what you can do essentially is pass in an image, add a little bit of a prompt to it and say what kind of behavior you want, and then you can walk around and explore a generated environment, which is crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And I wrote down it's playable at 24 frames per second.
Isn't that wild? That's pretty like movie quality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you're gonna, like, if you were playing a game, you would notice 24 frames per second. That's pretty low latency, right? Just because of, we're used to 60. But if you're watching something, like, that's really interesting. And it's probably going to tie in hugely into the training of these visual models and development of world model tech, right? Like, this is very cool to see.
Yeah. This whole idea of like world generation, it's always been something that's like fascinated me, like from all the time we played Minecraft, and this idea of like just, the seed that generates that Minecraft world. You play things like Dwarf Fortress and stuff, like just this whole idea of world gen. It's always been, it's another example of like a project in the back of my head that I'm always been like, hey, I want to go figure out how this actually works. And then, real life gets in the way, and, you never figure it out.
Yeah.
But just when you shared this, I was like, oh, that is so cool. Right. Like if I could do that right now, I'd be prompting it with stuff just to see what I could get, and then wander around in the creation that your imagination came up with. Like talk about, I don't know where I read this, but somebody was like, are we entering this era of personalized software? Because, as much as all the doom and gloom that's out there, and it's fun to go, oh my God, look at how horrible this is. The idea of just taking something that is complex and, maybe outside of a certain person's area of expertise, and forget all the challenges, forget all the risks. Okay. Those are important, but let's just be optimistic about this. Being able to take an idea and turn it into something with tools that you can get for like $20 a month, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it like that. And if you could think of something, you could build your own world and then wander around in it and look at it. And maybe nobody ever sees it. Maybe you just did it on a Sunday afternoon just because you could, and you never do anything with it ever again. But just the idea of being able to take something from your brain, dump it into a prompt, and then walk around in that thing, that's pretty cool.
That's extremely cool.
Yeah.
And like, you can, I mean, people will say like, oh, why don't you just imagine something, right? But there's a difference between that and exploring an environment, right?
Yeah.
And as this gets better, you'll be able to have potentially game mechanics, right? You could spawn mobs or items or things like that.
Yeah.
In these little environments, and that'll just get better over time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's super cool. And the idea of like this kind of procedural generation it's so fascinating, right? Like you were saying, Minecraft and Dwarf Fortress, like there's all this interesting math that has to go on to generate those worlds, right? From a simple set of rules. I'm really curious to know more about how they're accomplishing this. I'm kind of wondering if they're creating something and then raycasting out and then projecting. It's such an interesting thing they've done here, I think.
Yeah, really cool. The other note that I wrote down about this one is, I know it's, closed beta right now. It's only available in the US. You have to be invited, kind of thing. But longer term, like, what would this do to some of the game engines that exist?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, right? Because there's a lot of work now that goes into, and again, there's a lot of procedural rule-based environment generation that happens in like Unreal Engine and Unity, where you can spring up forests and mountains and that kind of thing. There's whole plugins you can buy and subscribe to do that kind of work.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. If it can generate things at the right resolution, then sky's the limit, right? The problem you'll run into is how do you upscale, because it's 720p at 24 frames per second.
Yeah.
You have to actually generate models. But maybe there's like a world where you have something like No Man's Sky, right? Which I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a game. It's 100% procedurally generated, basically. And they use different frames of reference in the game. So you can get down on a planet and you can explore the whole planet, or you can fly in your ship off the planet and you're in a solar system. And then there's billions and billions of solar systems you can explore, right? So if you can dynamically generate whatever you want, then the sky's the limit.
I've been known to play a bit of No Man's Sky, especially in the latest release where you got to build your own ships from scratch. Come on, how can you not spend a few hours doing that and just wander around, right? I don't want to look at Steam. I don't think it's as bad as Battlefield 6. But I've probably lost a few days of my life to No Man's Sky. Never take the hours and divide it by 24. Just don't do it.
Do not.
No, do not do it. Just avoid eye contact with your Steam summaries on how many hours you've been playing a certain game. You'll
remember the fun you had.
Yeah, exactly, right? You'll feel bad about yourself. Okay, so that's that one. I think that's a much more uplifting story. Right? Really, really cool stuff. What else do we have? The other thing, I'm just jumping through my list. The other thing that I thought was really cool that you shared, and I did download it like immediately, was the Codex app.
Yes.
Oh,
this is
come
crazy.
on. So walk us through it again, because I did it very quickly and made some quick notes. So I want to see what you think, and then I'll chime in where I think I can add some additional thoughts.
Totally. So this is a GUI app, like an IDE for working with the Codex models that OpenAI releases, right? So if you're familiar, they have a terminal tool called Codex where you can interact with the GPT-5 suite of models, Codex 5.2, and that kind of thing. And they're basically at the forefront of capabilities for these tools, right? There's Codex, and then there's basically Claude Code, and then you can use open code if you want to use an open source model or your own keys, right? So what they've done is it seems like they've wrapped Codex in a really comprehensive visual, like a GUI, essentially, like a graphical IDE that you can interact with and schedule agents working on various projects. And this is extremely useful for doing work, because what I've been doing is I have kind of like a para system, like a second brain running, and I use anti-gravity to kind of open that up and pull up projects and give me summaries, right? Mm-hmm. With this, if you can orchestrate multiple projects at the same time, you can kind of consolidate that and set up tasks. I think there's like a scheduling system too.
There's a whole scheduling system. I really wanted to dive into it, and when you showed the link, you sent the link, so I downloaded it immediately, and then I was like, okay, well, the demo on the website, sort of the walkthrough, it's not hard by any means, but I'm like, oh, I got to select a project that I want to talk, and then it was like, before I knew it, I'm like, oh, we gotta do the podcast. So I might spend some time on it in the remaining part of the week and just see. But yeah, it's got scheduling in it. The first thing that I wrote down in my notes was, wow, like, come on. Like I literally, I'm reading this and I'm like, you're shitting me. Like you turn it into always on mode and it sits in the background and starts working on your shit. Like if you've got GitHub issues and stuff like that, it'll go and start kind of trying to fix those for you. Wow.
I'll go back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago, and I feel like this is the new way to use your computer, like these tools, these kind of agentic tools. Mind you, if you want it bounded locally and sandboxed, right? But like the parallelization you can get across all those projects is crazy. And it feels like mono repos are back and better than ever. Because if you can lock it to a mono repo to work in, then that's everything.
Yeah, and this sort of felt like OpenClaw to me, because one of the things that I
Yeah.
keep seeing on YouTube is like, oh, I let it run overnight and look, it built microsas for me. And I know those are no different than the 2 a.m. commercials where like, I did this and people send me checks. Okay, great. Yeah, sure. But like, am I more likely to trust something from OpenAI? And I use the word trust with a grain
You
of
know,
salt, right? But I would be more likely to trust something from OpenAI that I have turn always on and go to bed versus a piece of open source software that we've already seen multiple times, people injecting skills into it that you then download and aren't doing what you think they're doing. Like I trust OpenAI more than
yes.
I would an open source product, right?
Yeah, and I
I'm going to give
think
this a
that's
whirl, man. By next time
me
we
too.
talk, I'm going to tell you what I think of this because, yeah, my first
Cool.
comment, wow, like I got to figure this out. This is very, very slick.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
here. And it's
yeah,
like it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the age of personal programming, right? Or personal software. There's going to be, it feels like that divide is going to be huge. There's going to be, you can write your own world of personal tools or whatever
yeah,
experiences or games.
yeah.
But there is a big difference between going from that to production, right?
Sure.
To like a product. So that layer is where all of the T's get crossed and I's get dotted in terms of security, right? So you have to do all the reviews,
Yeah.
architecture, that kind of thing. But for your personal little spreadsheet manipulator, who cares, right?
Yeah, who cares, right? Like I watched a video today. It was about a person who built their own to-do system using Obsidian and Claude, and they're like, this is never going to go anywhere. Like this is for me.
Yeah,
Sure, maybe some of the code isn't up to somebody else's standards, but it works for what I need. It's a system that I routinely like that I can use on a regular basis, and I'm iterating with my coding partner, Claude, to
yep,
make it better. Um,
yep,
maybe all this personal software that people are, man, I would love to know how many personal bits of software people have already churned
yeah,
out. And it's just some little thing like who knows? You didn't like the timer app that you used to, and so you decide to build your own.
yeah,
And it's never going to
yeah,
leave your Mac or whatever. You love it, and you just learn how that shit works. And you've got a pair programmer that's helping you figure out how to make it better and hopefully learn more about how to do the stuff. Right? It's a great learning
yeah.
opportunity, but maybe the vast majority of this shit never turns into the next unicorn production thing. It's personalized for you, and maybe you don't use it after 6 months. Who knows? I think this is exciting stuff. This gets me jazzed up.
Same. I mean, and
Yeah,
I've been working. It's like the ease at which you can get started on something is so high now. Like the barrier to entry is so low just to get working on projects that it. I've done more work on personal things than I have in like the past 3 years, probably
yeah, that's amazing.
combined in the
Yeah,
past 2 months. Like it's
yeah,
crazy.
crazy.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
disposable code almost
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. You know?
Yeah, you're right. The other thing that I did write down about this is we were talking about sandbox environments. So it executes inside a secure walled garden sandbox, right? The other thing that
Yep.
I thought was really cool, slightly confusing that they did call it Codex, right? Because there's the Codex CLI. Now there's the
They're so
Codex
bad at
app.
naming.
Yeah, and when you sent me the link, I'm like, Codex, man, I've been tooling around with that for like forever now. What is this? And then I read it and I'm like, oh, wait a second. But so it works across all of those. So you've got Codex CLI, you've got your IDE that you could plug it into, and now you've got the Codex app with the scheduler and all that kind of stuff, and it just churns away on something. I have a silly little project. Here's what I might do tonight. I have a silly little
Okay.
project that is literally shell scripts. That's all it is.
Nice.
Because when I create an account, right, I want to do a bunch of stuff to that account.
Yeah.
Like as an example, I want even if you never have a user in that account, I want a password policy because otherwise it's going to fire alert in Security Hub. I just want it to go away. I'm not gonna do anything too special, anything fancy. I wrote a shell script with Codex Kuro's help that basically runs a CLI command that says, here are the standards that we need to meet for whatever that Security Hub check is. Set the password policy to that. If there isn't one already, just set it, right? And I'm thinking
Just
to
pull the
myself,
bugs. Yep.
yeah, like Yeah, that's exactly what I asked it to do. Look at the official documentation for this. I use the AWS MCP knowledge server, I guess it's called, whatever they call it now, right? But it's using the official documentation.
Right.
So don't make an assumption. Go read this and tell me how to remediate it based on the documentation. Okay, now we know how to create a shell script. I just need something simple. And the first thing I thought of is, okay, so I've got this little library of shell scripts, right? I use them all the time for stuff. So I'm like, I wonder if I could set the Codex app to it and say, let's make improvements. What have I missed? What are some other checks that would be easy to solve? Because I don't want to have to do it in 15 different accounts. So how could, I'm thinking that might be the first thing. I just take a backup of it all and then throw this at it and just see what it does. Give it a couple days or something to plug away at it and see what it does.
That's a great use case, and you're going to wake up to like a library in your
probably, yeah. I'll run out of disk space again. I'll be like, it's all shell scripts. I've got to clean up old videos again because I've got a massive library of shell scripts.
It's a good use case though. Seriously, you could write like a Python framework that way or whatever.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be your account set up.
Yeah. And this is totally tangent, but you know what? I think I've finally come to the realization or acceptance that I'm okay with Kiro, Claude, Codex, insert tool of choice, writing the code for me. It took me a long time to get over that because that's what I've done for, oh man, I don't want to do the math, more than half of my life. Okay.
Yeah.
And I struggled. I still do a little bit. I struggled with, but that's where my value comes from is writing that stuff. Doesn't. Right.
No.
My value comes with that I've kicked the can down a road a whole bunch of times. And I can tell you about shit that I did that wasn't good. Right. Yeah. So you don't do it. That's the value that I think most of technology people, not just me, most technology people really bring to the table. And if you can wrap your head around that, I'm okay with Kiro writing a shell script for me. At this point, I just need to get it done. And I want to execute on that in a safe way so that I can do it 42 more times for a bunch of other customers and show value to them. Right.
Totally. Yeah. Especially if you're a small team or you're working on a huge swathe of, totally.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah. You're like your experience is a really good steering tool for these things. And you're going to you'll see if you're a newbie to programming or architecture or cloud security, that kind of thing, you're going to find out really quickly that it's going to go off the rails, right? You'll lose steering capabilities.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely on my to-do list. OpenClaw just got kicked to the curb. It's done. We're out of here. Let's go try Codex app and see what it is. Now, here's one more follow-up question on this one before we move on. Was it called, or is it called Claude-work?
Cowork, I think.
Cowork is... Yeah. Okay, this might be a stupid question. And I tried to look at this before we jumped on the call, and I didn't have time. Is Cowork, or whatever it's called, is that Codex app? Are they the same things? Can I have it have Cowork in the background doing the same shit that this new Codex app does?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think you miss out on Anthropic's doing the sandboxing slightly differently, right? They're using the Apple, the specific, the metal specific VM to do that. But yeah, essentially it's the same tool. I think OpenAI has added more scheduling capabilities, right? And that's really useful. And so I would, like you said, I would trust a Codex model running alone on my code base more than I would trust anything else at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll change next week.
Oh yeah. We've talked about this before, right? It's the AI arms race. So if there's features here that don't exist in, let's say, Cowork, you can probably expect that they've already fired up Claude to fill those gaps, right? Because they've already said they used Claude to write these things. So, hey, there you go.
Oh,
we actually have, you saw it at the same time I did. Wayne, thanks, Wayne. Let's see. If you're comfortable knowing you have the right processes in place so that you can hire an intern, then AI coding shouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
Totally.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Wayne.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good. There we go. Look at that. Wayne, first comment, man. If I could give you a gold star, I would, but I don't know how. All right. So that's Codex app. That's a really cool one. I'm skipping through my list again to make sure we didn't miss anything. Let's talk about Kimi K25, the visual agentic intelligence. You shared that. It was a PDF. I started flipping through it and it had math and formulas. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to go make a coffee or something. Can you walk us through that one?
Totally. Yeah, this one was just interesting to me from kind of a wonky point of view in how they did the reinforcement learning. So they essentially had the incentives for, they had to specifically tweak the incentives for going massively parallel and doing an agent swarm, and getting that working properly was not trivial.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that jumped out at me with this guy, I did not read the article. I got it in my to-do list. I might actually throw Gemini at it and say, give me the Cole's Note versions of this so I can at least get the gist of it. But I mentioned as we started this that I'm teaching this week, right? And it's not specifically an AI class. It's a AWS class. And somehow, actually, I know how we started talking about it. We started talking about Kiro. Or Q, whatever you want to call it, right? As they've rebranded it. And I just mentioned in passing that I had a friend who was super interested in Kimi K25 and Minimax 2.1 or whatever. And because we were just talking, a couple people were talking about other things they were working on. I just mentioned it. And one of the guys in the class is Kimi 2.5 and Minimax 2.1 or whatever, 2A or whatever it was called, are absolutely crazy models. So somebody else is like you, and they've been using these things, and his comment was, these are insanely good.
They're so good. I mean, 2.5 is, it's Opus comparable, and it's like 10 times cheaper. So that's why I've been using. I did mention last week that I would go and try it out as a default model for use cases, and yeah, it's been perfectly cromulent serviceable.
Yeah.
Sorry,
just so I'm clear. Kimi or Mini? Kimi or Mini? Max?
Kimi 2.5. Minimax I've used in some more niche use cases for specifically smaller code writing tasks. But Kimi 2.5 I've used for kind of more general orchestration tasks.
Nice.
It's been good.
It's been good. Okay. There was another crazy deep article that you sent, DeepSeek R1. Incentivizing reason capabilities in LLMs. You read way different stuff than I do. I'll just say. I'm like, okay, we know who the academic is here. This is not me. I'm watching YouTube shorts on why I keep dying in Battlefield 6. You're reading research papers. No.
Well, maybe the next one.
Yeah, maybe. All right, walk us through the DeepSeek one.
Okay, yes. So this was another reinforcement learning paper, and essentially it goes into DeepSeek's process for doing visual multimodal model training. And essentially what they're doing is they're taking an image, right? So when you're doing multimodal, you're processing images for video. So you take an image frame, you split that up into multiple chunks, right? And then what you could do is you could do reinforcement learning training and use an attention mechanism on the order of those chunks and process kind of what's where on the screen, right? So the idea is that you want to be able to have the tool be able to track where things are on a screen. So it has actual spatial recollection of what it's doing. And this is the mechanism for that. So it's kind of like almost like a convolutional neural net situation where you chunk up the image and then you use the attention mechanism and then you reinforce the system on that to train weights. So just another absolutely great article from the DeepSeek team. And it's crazy that they're releasing all of this on the internet for free. Because like what you get out of OpenAI's articles is like, and then using some internal tool, we did this thing to get the results you see out of Codex, right?
And these guys are like, here. This is what we did.
Exactly.
And
the idea This paper also had the kind of, if you can if you can distill good thought patterns from stronger models, what you can do is you can use those reasoning patterns and those thought patterns to get better results out of a weaker model, right? So you can distill those into like a Quen open weight model, for example, and you can like triple the performance of that thing by doing this.
Wow.
Yeah. So just having examples seems to be key to narrowing state space enough to get you on task and doing something useful for these tools.
Yeah. I've added this to my weekend reading. All joking aside, I will read it, but once I started seeing that math, I was like, okay, I'm probably in over my head with this. I need some time to sit down and really no distractions, early morning, right? Life hasn't started yet, and sit down and really
Just
take the time to read it.
Technical.
Yeah. Ooh. Right.
I think I was.
What's that?
I think I was mixing up. There's a meta paper about the visual reasoning. I think I was conflating the two. But the DeepSeek paper is more about that RL and using examples to create stronger models.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. And I misordered this. We're going to end on a crappy note, but no. a great name, MaliciousCorgi. Come on. You want me to read an article? Start it with the title "MaliciousCorgi," right?
Absolutely.
Whoever thought a corgi could be malicious? So this is yes, a scheming corgi. So this is another great example of how you just, and this isn't new. You just shouldn't trust anything you see on the internet, right? Basically, putting bad extensions into the VS Code marketplace. And what did it say? 1.5 million downloads for MaliciousCorgi that essentially, I just wrote down, leaks information to servers in China. Yep. 1.5 million downloads.
That's a lot of downloads. That's a lot of compromised systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that like the other comment that they made in there that really got me was the shit works. Like you can ask it questions, it answers questions, but what it's doing behind the scenes is taking all your info and sending it to servers somewhere else without you being aware that it's even doing it. But it's answering your programming questions, so good trade-off.
Say worth it. I mean, there's good enough open source tools, right, that you can pull down and then create your own wrapper around these APIs to get a decent enough coding or agent chat tool, right? So just be very careful what you download.
Be very careful.
These are they're not something that I would ever like go like. I'm trying to think what I say. It doesn't seem very convincing to me, but you should definitely check the provenance of the tools you're using.
But this is nothing new though, right? Like this has existed forever. It's like, you don't just, I think I used this silly analogy before. You find a USB key lying on the ground, you probably shouldn't plug it in, right? And the same thing goes with this, is just because what's the old saying? If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. I'd be more interested in getting into the minds of the folks that like downloaded this. Like what was it about the description of the extension that made you add it to your IDE when, to your point, you've already got really great tools and I'll use the term again loosely, you can feel pretty safe in trusting them, right? So why would you go off and grab this thing and add it to your IDE? Is it just because everything's moving so fast and you just want to try to stay on top of it? Maybe, I don't know.
Right? Could be you're catching that first mover crowd, or who are maybe not being super scrupulous, right?
Yeah.
With the tools that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe if you're under extreme pressure to ship, you might be looking for anything that works. But I mean, again, the first party tools are pretty good.
They're gonna do what you need it to do, right?
Yeah.
Just be careful of when it hallucinates.
Yeah.
Just starts making up random AWS account IDs and shit like that.
It still hacked the account.
Still did it, right? Tried a couple times. It failed a couple times, but it eventually got the code that worked. All right. So that's the show. As usual, you want to wrap up with a couple movie recommendations?
Yeah, I have a couple things.
Okay, fire away.
Have you seen it? Okay, well, we rewatched the 2003 Hulk movie. And
2003 Hulk movie.
yeah.
Who's in it?
Uh,
Who's Hulk?
oh man, who is Hulk? That's a great question. It's not an actor that you would expect because there's a Mark Ruffalo movie as well,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's
in like
immediately what I
2008.
thought. Oh, it's that new. It's that much newer.
I think so. It's
Oh, okay.
let's see, Eric Bana or
Eric
Bana
Bana. Oh,
is
wow.
the Hulk. Yeah,
Huh.
and it does some really interesting things that I've not seen in any other superhero movie
Okay.
because I think they must have still been trying to figure it out because it does a lot of weird frame and frame things. Like
Yeah.
they'll put a like almost like a comic book that they're trying to show, right? So they'll
Okay.
do transition. They'll put a frame of another person on screen and then kind of have like grid lines to block it off, which is very jarring and weird to see in a movie. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate the extra hour of Hulk fighting that they could have cut out. Or Hulk if you had taken that movie to the cutting room floor, you could have cut an extra hour out of it for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah. That reminds me, there's a new movie coming out with is it Ryan Gosling?
oh yeah.
Space movie.
Oh yes. This is Project Hail Mary, I think.
That's it. If
Yeah.
you have not read that book, do
Is it
yourself
good?
a
Okay.
favor, read that book before the movie comes out. I don't even know when the movie's going to come out. Read the book. It is fantastic. Okay. I'm going off script too here a little bit, which is not out of the ordinary. Speaking of books, another book series that I've gotten into, I've read the first book. I think there's 7 books, and I'm about halfway through the second one. We Are Legion, We Are Bob.
Okay.
You
I'm on
have to
board.
read it, man. It's basically about a dude who dies and gets his consciousness loaded into a computer, and then is basically a spaceship and starts to auto-replicate himself.
Awesome.
It is
Okay, I'm on board.
absolutely fantastic. So you've got some reading. Project Hail Mary, and then We Are Legion, We Are Bob.
Sweet.
But that made me think of Hail Mary because I think the runtime for that, I want to say it's like 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember seeing something about Project Hail Mary movie runtime. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll go see it in theaters.
I exaggerated. 2.5 hours.
Okay.
It's not
Well,
too
still
bad, actually.
Still get the extra large popcorn.
Yo, yeah, exactly. Okay, so definitely worth it. What have I watched recently? I've watched some really shitty movies. We watched. It's called. I'm cheating on Letterboxd to remember what I watched. It's called Intruders, and
Ooh.
it has Ella Purnell in it. Ella Purnell from Fallout. Okay. And
okay.
she's obviously much younger. This is from, do they have a release date
Sure.
here? I don't see a release date
20
either.
I'm seeing 2015.
2015, that long ago, eh? And it's got, who else? Clive Owen in it. I don't even remember what it's really about. Oh, yeah. No one can see him. Hollow face lurks in the corners. It's bad. We watched it because we're really enjoying Fallout, and I said to Karen in passing, I'm like, okay, what else has Ella Purnell been in? I don't remember seeing her in anything, and somehow Karen found this, and we sat down and we were kind of like, holy crap, is this over yet? Like this is bad. So yeah, there's my movie recommendation. What's the other one? Yeah. Don't waste your time. This was fun. This was a fun watch. It's called Viral from 2016.
Viral.
It's a Blumhouse horror.
Okay.
So yeah, you know what you're gonna get, right? It's basically the irony is the movie's called Viral, but it's actually like a fungal infection that you get. I think it's fungal infection. But it was actually kind of fun to watch. I watched it. I had a chuckle here or there. You know, it's kind of like what's that type of book you would read, like early teen mystery kind of
YA
stuff?
novel.
Yeah, this is like early teen kind of horror movie, but we had a good chuckle when we watched it. So there's a couple you can put on your list, and one you'll be like, what the? And the other one you'll be like,
yeah,
it wasn't the worst thing I ever watched. It's pretty good. It's shot well, right? It doesn't look like somebody shot it on their handy cam. It's Hollywood quality.
Plus,
the story maybe isn't super great, but it was fun. So there you go. Another week in the books. Doom and gloom on the Gen AI front, and bad movies to watch.
Did you ever, speaking of good bad movies, did you ever see Frankie Freako?
Is that the one where the guy goes in like to the old pizza joint or something? He's the janitor overnight, or am I getting mixed up?
No, that's the animatronics one. That's Willy's Wonderland. Frankie Freako is about a guy who works in a boring office, and then 4 weird little freak puppets show up into his life.
No way.
And I'd highly recommend it. I think it's pretty funny.
I can watch it on Crave, which I have. Okay.
Nice.
It's going on my watch
list. It's a Canadian
list
guy
now.
who did it, yeah.
Frankie Freako. Have you maybe mentioned this one before?
I think so.
As I'm looking at like the movie poster or whatever, yeah, it looks sort of familiar. What does it get? It actually gets decent ratings.
It's pretty good, actually. It's one of my favorite movies in the past few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There, I got something to watch this weekend while I'm reading academic papers about reinforced learning.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. All right, man. Let's call it there. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be back next Wednesday with more movie recommendations.
That's right.
All right. Bye.